Guys, you need to be doing this if you want to increase that leg speed. Today, I want to show you and teach you about roller sprints. What you see behind me is a set of rollers. This is used across multiple disciplines of cycling. Most of you have seen the mount rack system that your back wheel actually drops in. What I don't like about that system is you're completely fixed. The bike is in one spot. If you want to sprint, you can't actually move it side to side. It's going to be set up very much like a stationary bike in that case. We're focusing on sprints. We're focusing on leg speed and we're sprinting all out. Our bike needs to be able to move back and forth. Let it move. Using a set of rollers is going to be the most realistic form of sprinting without actually going out in the street. In this case, let's say it's a bad weather day, you're missing some training. Reason number one to have a set of rollers. Another reason to have a set of rollers, it helps train your legs to spin proper circles. Rollers like this tend to make a lot of noise, so you can actually really tell whether you have smooth pedaling or like super choppy pedaling. So I'm gonna put some clip shoes on, jump on the rollers, and we're gonna dive deeper into this. First, before we get into this, let's talk about how to even use the rollers. Doing this for your first time, it is very intimidating, but it's not as hard as it seems. And yes, it's easy for me to say, but it's as easy as just getting on here and pedaling. So try not to think about it too much. It does help if you have a wall to touch. As soon as you start looking at it and trying to keep yourself straight, that's when it's gonna get hard. The bike's gonna wanna move. Let it move. You can use the whole rollers, eyes ahead, keep it nice and smooth like you're riding down the road. The rubber band from the back to the front, the back wheel spinning the back rollers and spinning the front rollers, spinning the front wheel is what's gonna keep you upright. If the front roller is not rolling, you're not gonna stand up straight. So first, let's get comfortable, get the wheel spinning. You can get used to taking a hand off, getting comfortable. I'm obviously riding with just my fingertips. Once you do get comfortable, you can take your hands off and then you can eventually ride with no hands. But I don't recommend that because it is kind of hard. So let's get comfortable in this position first before we stand up and trying to start sprinting as fast as we can, okay? Now, once we're comfortable with just pedaling like this, now let's work on standing up and learning to spin smooth circles. Let's talk about choppiness. You hear people talking about choppy pedals. Choppy is where you're pretty much just pedaling up and down and not smooth circles. It's very obvious when you're on rollers because you can tell by the sound from choppy versus smooth. Like my feet are chopping, like an axe, you know, just straight down on a pedal stroke. Looking for that consistent cadence, that consistent circle of the pedals. Smooth circles, not all are forced down. We're focusing on a downstroke, a scoop with our foot at the bottom, a pull with our hamstrings, pulling up on our clips, and then the rotation of our foot to get it back around and apply pressure on the next downstroke. At the end of the day, we're not having to start from a dead stop. So don't think you need to stop and then start sprinting. If you stop pedaling and go from here, it's so sketchy every time. So just rule that out. Don't think you gotta be a cool guy to learn it that way. Just start smooth, and as you get into the sprint, gradually build your speed. All right, back to it. Smooth circles. Let's stand up and focus on smooth circles here. We're just keeping it going. Again, let the bike move. Don't try to keep the bike straight. We don't pedal like this, so when the bike wants to move, just let it move, okay? From here is where we're gonna work in to our sprinting. Now, let's talk about the sprints and why we do them on these rollers. What I use roller sprints for the most, 80–90% of my roller exercises are sprint focused. So I'm either gonna do these as an activation going up to race my moto. And what I'm focusing on is really just maximizing the cadence in my sprint, really getting them at that high rev limit. So by the time I go up to the starting hill for my moto or for a semi-main, whatever the case, I do them before every lap as a direct activation to get my body fired up. I also do these before going into a sprint session. Again, I'm over revving my legs, getting everything firing at that peak point because we don't have as much resistance on the rollers as you do if you're pedaling outside. So it does feel like you have a smaller gear. And to go even deeper, I actually have another sprint bike with a smaller gear on when I'm really focusing on leg speed. But that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother video. So we have our activation into a training session to really maximize the output of the legs. But for, I assume, 90% of the viewers watching this video, you should be watching this for leg speed. We want to have good leg speed down that first straightaway. So many of us want to be big and strong so we can get out of that gate, right? But if you can't get out of the gate and get to that 30-foot line and still pull on that gear all the way to that first turn, you're not going to be getting hole shots to the first turn. Who cares if you got to the first jump first? If you're not first going into that first turn, it doesn't matter how good your gate was or how good your 30-foot line is if you don't get to that first turn first, right? Now, for my 20 plus years of being a professional athlete, racing bicycles, from what I've learned is that max output, that high intensity sprint, you don't want to overload those. You don't want to go do 10 to 20 of those. So I'm going to be shooting for 6 to 8 of them in this session. I'm getting older, so I really like to listen to my body. When we do sprints like this, the main focus is doing every one of them at 100%. If you're not sprinting at 100%, you're not making gains. We're not endurance athletes. It's not about getting out there and pedaling for an hour to 2 hours and just grinding it out and getting your heart rate up and just pushing as far as you can. That's how we build endurance. Yes, we need a little bit of endurance in BMX, but BMX races are only 30, 40 seconds, right? We are sprint athletes at the end of the day, so we need to focus on being 100% for every sprint. So again, we're gonna focus on 6 to 8 of these. We're gonna go for max recovery in between each one. That way, when I come up for my second, third, fifth, and sixth, whatever, I'm at 100% and I'm peaked, ready to go. So, sprint number 1. I always like to start in the seat. Now, we are not doing a dead stop sprint. We are focusing on our leg speed at, think of the end of the first straightaway, not coming out of the start. Get a good spin. We're gonna stand up. We never actually have to stop. Let's just get a smooth pedal and go. Whew. I usually go for about 3 to 4 seconds. And I will say, the first one is always choppy because it's just like the warm-ups. We're getting everything activated. Now, I did do a warm-up before this. I forgot to put my watch on. But we're going to be aiming for 2 to 3 minute rest on this one. Let me grab that. Stopwatch. Sprint number 2. It's very easy to get intimidated. You do want to be trying to sprint at max effort eventually. Feel free to work your way up. You'll adapt to these pretty quick, more you get used to it. But again, get up, spin smooth, let the bike move. Don't think you gotta stay right in the middle of the rollers. We're at 2 minutes now. We're going for 3 to 4 seconds. We're just counting them in our head. Actually, no, I got my timer in front of me now. Whew. That one felt a little better. Still a bit choppy. 2 more minutes, we'll go again. Sprint number 3, no more heavy breathing. I don't feel any kind of tension or stiffness in my legs or anything. I'm good to go for number 3. Again, we want to be fresh for each and every one of these, all right? Woo! I've been slacking on these in the off season, and I can tell I haven't done them in a couple months. My off season, I took all of December and January off from riding. It wasn't really by choice. Now it's February 8th. I'm just kind of getting back into the swing of things on my bike, unfortunately. What I did in my off season, I did a lot of strength buildings. Just because you're getting strong doesn't mean you're getting faster. You can get strong. If you got a lot of strength and a lot of slower movement, your legs aren't going to be moving as quick. So now that I've gone off a strength block 6 to 7 weeks out from Rock Hill, so now I'm slowly tapering back into my leg speed stuff. So I built my strength, and now I'm tapping back into my leg speed, and I'm definitely feeling it today. I can definitely tell my leg speed is off from like my peak points of the year when I'm just really kind of firing on all cylinders. So I'm definitely having trouble keeping good circles, which shows me I need to be focused back on my leg speed. My legs are moving slower, so I need to be doing my roller sprints or downhill sprints to really maximize the cadence in those legs. Get kind of choppy. You want to reach that choppy point. You push a little further, and that's when your body starts to adapt, spinning those legs quicker. Your muscle memory is learning how to spin better circles, which in return gives you better leg speed at the end of a straightaway and be able to carry that same gear further down a straightaway without having to bump up your gear. Because at the end of the day, you got to be able to get out of the gate good, right? So if you can't spin down a long straightaway and you bump your gear up because you're spun out, you're gonna suffer coming out of the gate because you got a harder gear, right? So this is why we do these type of sprints. It's not all about just pushing as hard as you can, right? You have to hit all elements of that sprint down the first straightaway. Let's get into another one. Sprint number 4. Ooh. Whew. That one felt better. That one felt really good. We're just gonna go for 6 of these in this video because I'm gonna go do sprints after this. So 6 to 8 is a little more than what I would normally do as my activation into a sprint session because again, yes, we want these to be 100%, but when I go to my sprint spot, we definitely want those to be 100% because it doesn't get more specific than getting on your sprint block and sprinting down the street as if it's a first straightaway, right? 2 more. While we wait, this roller, TAC-X, I think that's how we say it. You can find these on Amazon. There's 2 sets. I put them in the link below. This set is a little more expensive. It actually compresses down. I leave it like this, hanging on the wall. I have another set that stays in my race trailer that I take to all the races. The second link I put in the description, it's like a fold-up set. It's probably about $50 cheaper, I think I saw, but it's just more moving parts. The other one has 2 hinges so you can fold it up into a really tight, confined thing. I'm sure it works well. I haven't actually used that one that folds up, but keep in mind, we got a lot of stuff going on right here. We're sprinting as hard as we can, and more hinge points, to me, just means more areas of movement within the rollers that we don't really want. So my recommendation is get one of these. They're not a sponsor. I bought mine just like you would. So again, links below. Let's get this next sprint in. We're really gonna maximize these last 2 and get the most out of these. 3, 2, 1. Started. All right, sprint number 6. Last one. Let's finish it strong. And remember, when you're doing these, give your brain a task. I talk about it in all my clinics, giving our brain a task, not just going through the motions. So when you're focusing on your sprint, really focus on spinning those circles. Be aware of your legs spinning. Don't just chop. Really just try to spin smooth. Even if you feel like you're not at 100% effort, just spin at 80, 90%, and then just slowly kind of work your way up, all right? Last one. Up. 3, 2, 1. Ah! Whew. Whew. And that is the sprint session on the rollers. I hope this helps you understand a little more about rollers and what they're intended for. I get questions quite a bit asking where somebody can get a stationary setup for their kid in their house. Yes, that is much safer, but again, you're just going through the motions, you're just spinning. Nothing about sitting on a stationary setup feels like a real world pedaling scenario. Plus, if you can sprint on a little set like this, your core's locked in, you're really trying to keep stable. You learn this smooth, imagine how much better your pedaling techniques is gonna become out in the real world when you don't have all those extra elements of staying on a roller this big. Again, links in the description below where you can get your own rollers. Just don't overdo it. Don't think you need to go do 10, 15 of these. If you wanna do that many sprints, do these as an activation and go out and do your real world sprints. Get on a sprint block. The sprint block that you guys have seen us use with that sliding mechanism, it's great. It allows you to get in a realistic start position. Now I can go deeper into that. I have videos planned to teach you guys a little more about sprints, but that's gonna be a whole nother video. Doing something like this before your sprints, I guarantee you'll start seeing faster times by getting a good warm up and an activation as you go into that sprint session. If you liked this video and you found this helpful, please go leave some comments. Let me know what you learned from it. Maybe you can actually teach me something. Maybe there's something I haven't learned about rollers that you guys could teach me. And I hope it motivates you to get out there and do the work. We're not gonna win races without doing the work, and training doesn't get any more specific than sprint training on your bicycle. There's gonna be a lot more of this content to come this year. I really wanna get back to my how-to stuff, teaching you guys raw cycling skills, whether it's sprint training, jumping. I have a list of stuff I plan to tackle to 2025 and getting back to teaching you guys the good stuff. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe for me. Leave some comments. Let me know what you learned from it. And until next time, we'll see you then. Peace. Ah, that was it.